Hello there, brick fanatics. The seaweed is always greener in somebody else's lake, but I guarantee in this video there will be no accusations, just friendly crustaceans as we go under the sea. This is LEGO 10366 Tropical Aquarium. It contains 4,154 pieces, launches on the 13th of November 2025 and is priced at £399.99 in the UK, $479.99 in the US, and €449.99 in parts of Europe. That's quite a lot of money for this set, and admittedly it does have quite a high piece count there, over 4,000, and it does take up a fair amount of space. But having been hands-on with this thing at Fan Media Days, having literally held it in my hands, I've got to say, quite ironically, for a LEGO set that is based on an aquarium, there's an awful lot of dead empty air to this thing. Okay, I did say there would be no accusations in this video, but looking at this thing, I do feel like I need to point out some of its flaws, in addition to pointing out some of its very strong points. I do quite enjoy, for example, how much colour is on display here, how many different weird and wonderful things that you can see, and there are some really cool mechanisms which you can see me on screen playing with here, where we've got wibbly fish that kind of flop around like one of those singing bass things. We've got, for example, a treasure chest that opens and closes. We've got a little crab that will scuttle around. All of this stuff is really, really neat, and it is apparently a LEGO set which is using basically every possible coloured brick, which is wonderful to have. You're not going to find a more vibrant, more colourful LEGO set than this. If this thing had just been that display, just the coral and the anemones and all of the fish floating around, then it would have been a very strong set in its own right. But because they've gone to the trouble of adding the fish tank to this thing, where we've got this backdrop here and we've got these big black bars on the sides that are meant to simulate the sides of a glass case. Because of that, I feel like the beauty that is within the actual build of the aquarium here is kind of lost with the trappings of the container that it's supposed to represent. If this thing were releasing like even just £100 cheaper and didn't have all of those extra bricks to it, somehow I feel like it would be a better set. This is weird. It's a case where maybe less would have been more in this instance, not least because it would have been an awful lot easier to find display space for it. We all know that as much as price is an impediment to a lot of people picking up many LEGO sets, especially at this kind of size, the bigger issue a lot of the time is actually finding somewhere to display it, and this is a set which is going to demand an awful lot of your shelf. If it were just the aquatic life here, I feel like it would have taken up significantly less space. It would have been a much easier purchase for a lot of people to consider, leaving aside the issues of price, and obviously LEGO prices are ridiculous in 2025, but just trying to find space on the shelf for this thing, it would be easier if it weren't trying to be a fish tank, if it were instead trying to be just a little slice of the world under the sea. Yes, the base of this thing would be about the same size, but you wouldn't have to find that entire cuboid shape on your shelf, and you wouldn't have the danger that you have with this, where if anything kind of peeks in through those bars on either side of your display, if you've got something that maybe has a large wingspan that you're trying to display next to this thing, it looks a bit odd if it kind of clips into the display here. But that wouldn't be the case if this thing was a slightly more open build that didn't have these arbitrary size dimensions. It doesn't help that the back of this thing doesn't really feel like it adds anything to the build. It's kind of basic in its design. It's got a kind of texture to it with these half and quarter circles, but it's not really anything. It's all a bit abstract. It's all one colour for a set which is otherwise trying to be as colourful as possible. And if I think of something like, for example, Hokusai's Great Wave, or even something like the Amazing Spider-Man art set, where there's a huge amount going on in the background in addition to everything that's happening in the foreground. You've got gradients, you've got different colours being used there, and then this one, in contrast, is just kind of blue. Then of course ask any AV kid who is obsessed with aspect ratios whether or not having black bars around something makes it better, and they will tell you it does not. It is a shame because there's so much cool stuff in here. This coral and the anemones and all of the fish and crustaceans that are swimming around and just having a brilliant time under the sea, but all of that is kind of lost because it has to be within a cage, and that does somewhat reflect my opinions on the subjects of aquariums in people's homes in general. I think fish need a little bit more space than most people give them, and it's strange that you can actually see that in this LEGO set as well, that maybe opening things out and not having all of these black bars around everything might have made things feel a little bit freer and helped to draw attention to what the set does really well, rather than your eye being distracted by all of the things that really hold the set back. I think not for the first time this year. This is a case of a LEGO set which maybe could have been cool if the LEGO group hadn't pushed it out to be as big as it is, because the bigger a LEGO set gets, the more it really needs to justify having that size, and in this case I feel like the size is overblown for what you're actually getting in the box. Now, I do have one other quibble. This is very quickly turning into an accusation video, and I'm aware of that, but I do have one other quibble with this, which is when we were at Fan Media Days and they were showing this thing off, they were talking about all of the different things that they put in here, and the designers made it clear that what they had not done was stick to actual accurate depictions of things under the sea in all cases. What they had instead done was done a lot of research into it and then taken what they thought looked cool and made a very Hollywoodized version of a fish tank. So something that is not necessarily hugely accurate to what you might see under the sea, but instead something that just looks kind of cool. And as great as that is in terms of its visual style and how it actually looks, as somebody who is a big fan of life under the sea and all things oceanic, it is a bit disappointing to not have something that's a little bit more accurate and that is just kind of made up. I would have loved to have done for this video a deep dive into, oh, what's this fish here? What's this crustacean over here? What kind of coral have we got here? What are the anemones doing? This kind of thing. But I don't feel like there's a point to any of that, because a lot of this is just, oh, we made a cool looking fish. Don't really worry about it too much, what kind of fish it is. And that really, I do think, hurts this kind of set where, especially if you're trying to appeal primarily to the kind of person that wants to put fish on display in their home or just desperately cares about fish in general, if you're not actually giving them something that they can then research and say, ah, this is a yellow tang, or this is a hermit crab or a clownfish, or oh, I see that the anemones here are reacting to things in the same way that they would do in the real world. It's that kind of thing. It's that level of realism which maybe isn't essential for everybody, but is kind of going to be more important to the kinds of people that you are hoping are going to be spending like £400 on this thing. They had a question and answer session for this set at Fan Media Days. I'm going to put the entire presentation at the end of this, but they had a question and answer session. I put my hand up and I said, can you talk about the research that went into this thing, although I bungled the question in the moment. And they said,
yeah, I don't know if there's a simple answer to that, because like the amount of stuff I had to choose from was so immense. Some of the things were inspired by it, as you will see in the BI, like this is I believe it is called a screw top anemone, bubble tip anemone. There's a couple of corals and angelfish that we have that are inspired by real species, but some of them we did make up because they just fit our aesthetic.
Do you know, when I started this video, I didn't expect to come down as hard on this as I have done. This is no shade whatsoever to the designers of the set, who I think have done a great job with some aspects of this. I just don't think that everything was quite as fleshed out and thought through as it could have been, especially the design of the actual case of this thing, and of course the fact that I'm not getting my really hyper accurate fish fix. Although the more I think about that, the more I feel like maybe I'm expecting too much when hoping for biological accuracy from a construction toy. And again, I guess it comes down to that price point, and like for a set this expensive, I would hope that I could build something that I could at least see in the real world somehow. Because I do like the idea of this. I like the idea of something that's kind of botanical-esque, but with fish rather than with plants, because fish are another thing that people like to display in their homes, just as they like to display plants. So it works as a concept, and I think that there's a lot of neat stuff in here. It's just that execution that's lacking. Also, much like botanical sets, it's easier to keep a botanical Lego set looking good than it is to actually keep a plant alive in some cases. And that's the same for tropical fish. If you've ever tried to keep tropical fish in the home, you know that they are incredibly sensitive. You have to have exactly the right water temperature, exactly the right pH balance. You've got to make sure that you've got the right fish in the tank who all get along with each other, and it can be very difficult to actually keep tropical fish alive in your house. This set, you're not going to have a problem with that. These fish are not going to die. They're going to get very dusty, very dusty, but they are not going to die on you. I guess I'm just kind of disappointed, because this could have been a really cool Lego set, and I feel like we're maybe 60 to 70% of the way there, but the execution is just not quite right, and that final finessing of things hasn't quite coalesced into something absolutely glorious. I feel like it's on the right track, but the finer details are just lacking on this thing. And because so much of the piece count is taken up with creating something which adds adds very little to the build, the whole thing feels a bit cheaper as a result, which is not something that you want from a LEGO set at this price point. But even so, I do feel like there is a lot of good stuff in here, and I'm going to be particularly interested to see how LEGO fans might take this and expand it, flesh it out, put some additional stuff in this. I've thought of maybe the perfect use for this thing, right? For those really hardcore dedicated LEGO fans who have got these. I think that this would be an absolutely perfect backdrop for displaying LEGO Forma. Remember these things? Remember when the LEGO group thought that the future of LEGO for adults was just fish? Well, here's a set that's just fish that's going to go very well with it. Now, as said, I'm going to leave you with the full presentation from Fan Media Day, so if you want to know anything else about the set and how it was designed, there's going to be some cool information in there. Hopefully that is very nice for you to watch. Otherwise, do let us know your thoughts on this set, whether or not it is the one for you, how you feel like it might be improved, or what its strong points are if you so wish. Write that down in the comments down below, and do all of the rest of the YouTube things while you are there. You know the drill by now. Hit the thumbs up button, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell. Make sure that if you're going to be purchasing this set or any other LEGO set from the LEGO website in the near future, that you use the affiliate link which is down in the description, or the QR code that is currently on screen. Those take you straight to the LEGO website, and we get a percentage of the sale when you purchase through those links. So it's a nice way of supporting Brick Fanatics that doesn't cost you a penny extra. Make sure that you do go to brickfanatics.com for coverage of all things LEGO, and make sure that you sign up to our newsletter so that you never miss anything LEGO related ever again. Thank you very much for watching, and I'm going to turn the time over to the LEGO designers.
Hello everyone. What we have is something that we've never done before. SKU 10366. I believe the name is Tropical Aquarium. So the way this came to be is I was just staring at at one of our color palettes, and I thought, like, whoa, could we just use all of these? Thankfully our design process is a little bit more nuanced than that, but we wanted to combine nature and put it in your living room. Basically, we're kind of experiencing an interior design malaise in sense of color, so it was really fun working with a lot of different colors. It's, you know, when you design cars, you don't often get to pick a glittery purple and stuff like that to use, and all these interesting elements. So it's really something that we kind of tested the shapes and colors of the LEGO system. I have Matteo with me, and he's our element designer. There was one difficult thing to do with difficult shape to recreate, and which was the fins of the fish. And I think Matteo can tell you more about that element.
Yeah, so we developed one new element for the fins. So we decided to not do two specific elements, but rather do like something generic that you can use to pattern and like adapt to different fish. So the element look like that, and I try to make it like simple enough so it can be do different patterns, and as well you can adapt to different size of fish.
And we've used, of course, we wanted to create some level of interactivity to give it another level. So we added a little bit of a few hidden functions, like if you turn this rock, there's a little crab that comes out. If you turn the crank, the fish comes on. We kept the functions fairly simple. It's like this anemone will wiggle around, and then we have a treasure chest that will open and close if you turn the crank. We didn't want to burden the consumer too much with technical features and gears to build a lot of technical stuff. We want to enjoy mostly building nature for it. So we kept them quite simple, but I think they give a little bit of a level, an extra level to the things. I think you'll also find a lot of minifigure elements that are used around to create patterns, like chef's hats in purple and really funny things going on. We're open to questions if you have any.
For the background, you used a bunch of those curved tiles to give that water element. Did you use any other things, when you were trying to figure out what would be the best look for that?
Yeah, the whole background was, there was a lot of thought when we test what kind of environment you can place this in. Mm-hmm. It would really be dependent on what is behind it, and you would get a lot with so much color and so much shaping going on, it really loses the silhouette once you have anything in the back. So we really wanted to create a background, but then also give it some more purpose. So it also serves as to create stability, so I can actually pick this up no problem, and to give it a bit of texture and some interesting patterns. We thought the shadows that the water casts would be a good idea.
Looks good.
For the yellow coral, is that like a power effect element that was recolored?
Yeah, that's a
Is
good
that
spot.
Ninjago?
Yeah, most
Yes.
people can't spot that, but it is.
That
Yeah,
is so
one of
neat.
those funny superhero things. Yeah.
What was the thought process behind making this a saltwater tank instead of a freshwater tank?
Yeah, it's obviously you get a lot more opportunity for color, and we had because I don't know anything about aquariums when I started with this. I had to find someone in the company. It was Caesar, who's actually is a bit of a fan of saltwater aquariums. So I had to ask him questions like, "What do you mean you can't put a eel with this fish together?" Apparently, some species will eat each other. But that's, I think, also a bit of this is where the Lego medium really gives us, this is where we can really use the Lego medium to create something that we can't do with real life. So we've taken a lot of creative liberties in creating also species that are kind of more inspired by our imagination than real fish. Go ahead.
Is there any consideration for like modularity or customization? Can you rearrange the fish a lot, or the different like plants in there?
So there's in the instructions there is no guidance to how to do that, but I feel like anyone who is a little bit more experienced it would be very easy to swap things out because a lot of the connectors are shared. So it's up to you to kind of figure that out.
Have you managed to use the whole current Lego color palette, or is there anything that you weren't able to use?
One of the interesting things I think I found about this is that actually one of the colors we didn't use for this is the color we call vibrant coral. It wasn't really intentional. It was just a color that didn't work for us for this. So there's definitely a lot more colors that we haven't used here, but I think it's one of those that spans quite a huge range. Yeah. Please go ahead.
Did you try motorizing it by any chance?
Oh, I'm scared to admit how many things we've tried to motorize in the company, but it was never the intention to have it motorized. It's just the level of how we build things needs to be at a much higher level for us to be able to motorize and really rely on that function to work.
I'll try.
You can go first, yeah.
Oh, thanks. You said you took some artistic liberties with the inclusions in here. What? I've suddenly forgotten the other half of that sentence. Thank you for telling us that. What was the process like in choosing which aquatic life to put in here in terms of, which kinds of fish and which kinds of coral and other things? Was there a large process of choosing different things, or was it like, I like this one because this is a color I can use here, and this is a thing that I can use there for some decoration?
Yeah, I don't know if there's a simple answer to that. Because like the amount of stuff I had to choose from was so immense. We've played around with also like man-made objects. We had at one point a lighthouse built in and a lot of things, and there's a level of when it gets a little bit too gimmicky if you add a lot. So we really wanted to bring the focus back to nature. The SeaWorld is such a big unknown that we have basically carte blanche to find almost anything works. Some of the things were inspired by it, as you will see in the BI, like this is I believe it is called a screw top anemone, bubble tip anemone. There's a couple of corals and angelfish that we have that are inspired by real species, but some of them we did make up because they just fit our aesthetic.
Thank you.
With that, what you just said with the pink tentacle things coming out.
Yep.
Yeah. Is that using that technique, like the lamp piece?
Yes, so this would be from you might know that from the Pixar
Right.
lamp. Yeah.
So was that your first choice? Did you automatically know, or did you try like brick building that structure? Or how was that like?
Yeah, that was. It's actually a pretty unusual shape to build, and I was attempting to build it out of bricks, and then I was just going to lunch and saw this funny piece, asked what it was, and creative lead of Lego Ideas said, "Oh, we're doing that for a lamp. Can I use that? Yeah, please do." So that's it. Was basically.
It was only in white before?
It was in white. I think it's printed also, right? The one in the lamp. I'm not sure,
Yeah.
but this one's in number 38, dark orange.
Could you make the crab come out again?
Sure.
I
Yeah.
know, right?
Here, I can turn it.
And the other functions, very quick.
Yep. We have the fish.
We just have time for one last question.
All right. It might not be.
Maybe just repeat that whole process, but turn
Yeah, yeah.
angled a bit towards this
Of course,
side.
of course, of course.
I'll see if we can see what the back looks like when that's done as well.
Okay,
Thanks.
I'll turn it around.
Wouldn't fit on one of the tables. He's spitting.
I don't know. I actually don't know if these little snails have already been in a set or not. They have.
Okay.
All right.
One piece.
Yes.
How did you get the crab out?
I turn this little stone piece here,
Wow.
and just connect it with. There's a lot of axles going on here
Yeah.
in the back.